Well, when Nick Mullins came to the Vikings via trade, we wondered who would be out, Sean Mannion or Kellen Mond. As it turns out, both are gone. Mond waived yesterday morning, Mannion in the afternoon cuts, and a thought that one of those guys could be back on the practice squad. I heard that all day yesterday. Everybody who was cut, well, you know, if he clears waivers, and maybe he won't, he could be brought back to the practice squad. I'm surprised a term of that ilk wasn't trending yesterday on Twitter. It was uttered so many times in every one of these reports. Of course, every guy with fewer than 4 years of service goes through waivers. And yes, you can bring back guys to the practice squad, even veterans now. There's leeway to have guys back who have unlimited service. So that happens today. Yesterday was the cut to 53. Today's the day where we find out who was claimed on waivers. We find out who ends up on practice squads. But it was a bit of a surprise, Chris, that the Vikings, after keeping Mannion and Mond throughout the offseason program, throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, just decide, cut down day, both are gone.
It is crazy. I wouldn't have thought that would have happened. I thought it would have been one or the other for sure. But obviously it was to the point where they were, not practicing well enough, not playing well enough to blow the doors off there, to where they didn't feel comfortable with having either one as the backup. I like Kellen Mond's talent. We kind of went through it. Preseason game 1, he did a few things. I kept going, man, I wish he'd let it go and throw the fireball. Preseason game number 2, did some good things, threw the ball with a little more authority and to the potential of his arm, but had one really bad interception, at the end of the game, had another interception early on where he didn't kind of feel the pocket and had somebody in his face. So obviously they went into the year going, wait, we got a pretty good offense, and I don't trust either one of these guys. And with it being a new regime and that not being, in handcuffs as far as this is our guy, all right, I think they just went, man, that's enough. We're going to go with a guy that we trust and has played a little football, knows this offense a little bit. Nick Mullins was in the Shanahan offense to a degree. I would think this has some similarities to it with O'Connell coming from the Rams. So that was, but it's still surprising to me. It is. And to me, it makes me delve into, is there something more there within the Kellen Mond? Is it more than just a play on the field? Is there something about the guy that's not liked there in Minnesota? Because we know Zimmer didn't seem like he in love with him either. So I'm
like
shocked.
Anybody.
Well, maybe he doesn't. But I was shocked. And you know me, I was kind of a backer of Kellen Mond when he was coming out in the draft.
By the way, I did get busted coming out of the B-roll, scratching my back. I got an itch right here, and I've been trying to get to it, and it's really annoying. I need to keep a back scratcher, butt scratcher up here in my office. Anyway, it's not just Minnesota in the NFC North that has gone through this. The Lions also on cutdown day, getting rid of Tim Boyle and now David Blau. It just seems to me, Chris, far from ideal to have two guys that you keep for all that time, all that effort, all that developmental opportunity, and they're just flushed.
Yeah.
As we get within days, literally, of the start of the regular season. Because now what do you do for your backup quarterback? The Lions reportedly bringing in Nate Sudfeld. The Vikings had traded for Nick Mullins. At least they made their arrangements before they did the cut-down day massacre of their quarterback room. But it's just odd to me. I can't remember many occasions where teams got rid of their entire complement of backup quarterbacks on cutdown.
No, it's definitely a head-scratcher to me, too. There's got to be a point in the offseason where you start to go, wait, are these really going to be our backups? And that's before training camp. And again, I can understand the Detroit one a little bit, maybe more than Minnesota, because I look at Minnesota and go, I think Kellen Mond's still got talent. I mean, I can see his arm and things he does, and we saw that scramble in the preseason where I go, this is pretty damn good. Blau and Boyle, I understand. I was always going, damn, are they really going to be the backups? Really? Those two are going to be the backups in the NFL? So, Nate Sudfeld being there, that certainly makes sense. And then I still think, as we're talking about this, 53-man rosters are set for now for a little bit. But I got to think teams like this are looking at, Mason Rudolph, a guy that go, well, are they really going to keep him? Or is it, they're just keeping him here for an extra few days until they really got to, make a move and get the right 53 on the roster. So I think there's still a little, meat left on the bone, I guess, as they say in this subject and where this goes with some of these guys.
And that's an important thing to keep in mind, especially if you're one of the guys at the bottom of one of these rosters. You are not guaranteed a job even as soon as week 1 because there will be constant churning. There will be waiver claims today, and in order to make room for the guys claimed on waivers, they're going to have to cut somebody who had made the team as of yesterday. Don't exhale yet, and there will be this constant churn all year long. Bottom 5-10 spots of the roster always seem to be changing for whatever reason, because of injury, because of ineffectiveness, whatever.
Right.
We need to bring in somebody else, so you've got to go. It's not about you. It's about the fact that we need a backup center, or we need a backup running back, or we need this, or we need that. It's just a numbers game, and we have to let you go, and that happens all the time. You mentioned the Steelers with Mason Rudolph. They're reportedly waiting to be blown away by a trade offer. They otherwise will keep 3 guys on the 53-man roster. The Dolphins keeping rookie Skylar Thompson, 7th rounder from Kansas State, on the roster with Tua Tagovailoa and Teddy Bridgewater for very different reasons. They're not trying to set up a trade. They're trying to set up a potential future for Skylar Thompson.
Right.
Here's Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel from yesterday talking about their decision to keep him on the roster.
Was Skylar a no-brainer ultimately? Was he that good in preseason where it didn't even require much thought, guys?
Yeah. I mean, so he played very well. Again, another guy that comes in, he just works every day. He's won over his teammates through his work ethic, and, he went out and balled. And another one, we got calls again, people asking what we were going to do, and they're all saying, you guys would be stupid to let him go, and there was no thought about us doing it.
We're not in the business of being stupid.
And that's the best way to put it. And look, we don't know what Skylar Thompson's going to be. It doesn't mean that he's going to be the starting quarterback in Miami.
Right.
At any point. But what it means is they see enough in him that it would be stupid to let him go. And I saw a picture of him. We wrote a story about him last night, and he wears number 19, and it made me think of another guy who wore number 19 for the Colts. The Steelers cut John Unitas at one point.
Crazy.
He was playing semi-pro football for the Bloomfield Rams in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And eventually he becomes one of the all-time greats. So if you have a guy that you think has something at that position, touches the ball every play, as McDaniel later said about the quarterback position generally, he's not aware of any team that that was bad because it had too many good quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got 3 good quarterbacks, you keep them, and you figure it out later.
No question.
You're trading out that roster spot for a truly bottom of the roster guy who's maybe going to be a special teams contributor. You keep that 3rd quarterback. You develop Skylar Thompson. You see where he's going to take you for now, and it may be nowhere. But you don't want him to take somebody else somewhere because you were too hasty to give up on him.
Well, at the very least, like to what you're saying there, maybe not starting quarterback, but potential to be that. And then you keep him because you go, wait, he could potentially be our backup here for a long, long time. Like, he's got that type of talent too. But let alone size, good athlete, and then, showed the ability to digest the offense. And then Mike, just like we were talking about with like Josh Allen a little bit, could just make some plays and some throws that, it's not about the offense. It's just the guy here, and I'm not trying to compare him to Josh Allen, but, there was a few throws in every game where you went, damn, there's 40 yards down the sideline on the money. Perfect. Whoa, little pressure in the pocket, 25-yard crosser. Wow. So it wasn't just like system BS. He showed the ability to, make some plays with his pure physical ability, and that's why you keep him. You do. And it's 3 guys on the roster, a quarterback. It's not always seen to be the great thing here in football, but I look at it and go, okay, Tua, we know it's a big year, right? Teddy Bridgewater, I could see this be, a one and done type of thing. He's kind of if Tua doesn't work, he comes in. If Tua doesn't work, all right, they're going to look for a big time starting quarterback next year. And now you got a guy like, oh, hey, here's Skylar Thompson, he can be our great backup and knows the system and all of that. So, and maybe has the future potential to be a starting quarterback. So I think it's a win-win there. And good for him. Kid from Kansas State coming out and really just, forcing himself on a roster with his play. Pretty damn special preseason for him.
The 8th quarterback taken in the draft this year in round 7. The last quarterback taken was Brock Purdy, who did survive in San Francisco as one of the backups there. But, it's not about needing the quarterback. It's about developing the quarterback. And at some point, even if he doesn't become a starter in Miami, he's a guy they could flip. He's an asset that they can grow and develop. You water, you nurture this plant that turns into a flower that somebody else wants to pull out of the garden at some point down the road if he ends up not being the guy that you think he could be for you. For now, though, every reason to let it play out, see if this continues, preseason next year, and just see how it goes. How does he deal with himself in practice? How does he grow? How does he develop? How locked in is he? How hard does he work? Does he exhibit leadership traits? And are they developing throughout his rookie year? A lot of it is unwritten, and they don't want to throw that book away just yet because it could end in a very good spot for the Dolphins. It did not end in a very good spot, Chris, for the Raiders.
Ooh.
17th overall pick in the 2021 draft, Alex Leatherwood. All options were on the table as of this past weekend. They could trade him. They could put him at guard, put him at tackle, or they could put him out the door. That's what they've done. They've cut him. His salary's guaranteed through 2024. He's got 3 years left under contract, fully guaranteed all the way through. Just couldn't get it done. And another failure of the Gruden-Mayock regime. And it's Gruden big letters, Mayock small letters.
100%.
Gruden was running that show. But what a shit show it was in 2019, 2020, and 2021 when it was Mayock and Gruden together making those picks.
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, we know Mayock was the GM, but John Gruden had full power. He was running things. No pick was made without his consent, and really, I would think almost all picks were made, because he says, let's make that pick there. And yeah, a lot of shiny objects with issues all over the board there. Oh, Clemson, Clelin Ferrell, all of that. That may be one of the worst picks in the draft in the last 10 years. At Clelin Ferrell at number, what was that, 4 in that draft? I mean, he can't even get on the field. Josh Jacobs, okay, that's been good. Jonathan Abrams, it's been a little all over the place. Ruggs, that's unfortunate. They got unlucky there because that looked like it was going to work out. Damon Arnett, overdrafted and had off-the-field concerns, but take a chance. Alex Leatherwood, potential, right? Big, strong guy, but damn, watching the film and all that when he was coming out in the draft, others were going, he's not a first-round lineman. What? They're taking him at pick 18? Whoa. And so, I think it says it all. You got Josh McDaniels, a New England staff there. They understand Alabama guys and what they are. New England loves Alabama guys. Obviously, it didn't match up. And obviously, there's more than what it's on the field. On the field, it's just less than. I was talking about this with my father a little bit the other day. Guard, tackle, whatever. The biggest thing is he can't pass protect. So it's hard to play in the NFL in a Josh McDaniels offense, and you can't be relied on to pass protect. He just can't move his feet and stay with people that way. So I think they looked at that and just said, the hell with it. We're out of here, and we'll just take our lumps and try to rebuild this O-line.
A lot easier for a new regime to do that. I have a feeling if Gruden was still there, they'd be
making it work.
Alex Leatherwood,
right?
Because they don't want to admit to the world that they screwed up.
Right.
Josh McDaniels has no compulsion, no reason, no purpose. If anything, it makes him look better because it makes the prior regime look even more inept. And as to Ferrell, and I will say this, I remember sitting in this chair saying after Ferrell was a 4th overall pick, and people were like, well, where did he come from? I said, hey, Mike Mayock wasn't in the media to tell us about him.
Right.
That's why we didn't know about him.
Right.
And
even though I was sitting here telling you, well, I know something and I know about him.
I know.
No, but I understand. Again, it happens. It's not easy.
But why did they fall in love with the guy?
It's
what
Clemson.
Did they do? How did they get duped?
It's Clemson, and whoa, he's on that team, and he had all the right, I think, intangibles as far as off the field that you liked. But it was one of those, Mike, and I will say this, it's a similar body and a similar look to Kayvon Thibodeau that's coming out in Oregon, which scares the crap out of me as a Giants fan. But a lot of sacks where you go, Well, that wasn't really that good. It was, everybody was covered, and the quarterback had a scrambled. Or they tricked him with a blitz, and he didn't have anybody blocking him, and he got a sack. You got to evaluate it for what it is. You can't just go, well, Clemson and sacks. Whoa, that's good. No. There's been other guys where I go, they never get a sack. Like the kid from Baltimore, Adafio Way from Penn State, never got a sack. But damn, he was beating people left and right all the time. It's just, college football, they get it out as a screen. It's a read option. He was dominant. He was doing it, the right way, the way you want it to be done. And people fall in that trap sometimes. It's not easy. Again, I've messed up a lot of guys too. I thought Kellen Mond was better than Justin Fields. I'm going to eat that crap for sure. I'm definitely going to eat that crap. Justin Fields is better than Kellen Mond, and that ain't going to change.
I hadn't thought of this before, but really for a pass rusher, getting the sack is icing the cake. But there's a lot of cake you can bake that doesn't need icing. That's pretty damn good.
The F the play up, right? I mean, that's where we don't need Aaron Donald to get 20 sacks a year for us to realize he's unblockable and he's the best D lineman in football. We watch the game and we go, man, he missed that play up. He missed that play up. He missed that play up. Oh, okay, Leonard Floyd got the sack. This guy got the sack. Oh, the quarterback threw the ball, but it was a bad errant throw. Why? Oh, because Aaron Donald was in the quarterback's face. He had to just get it out of his hand. Yes, it's way more than sacks, and that gets overlooked at that position too much.
Some of the analytics experts out there actually downgrade him against the run because he creates such
gaps at times.
A swath.
Right.
When he destroys the interior offensive line, that the running back just says, hey, I'm going to run where that guy was.
Sure.
And he's not there to make the tackle because he has destroyed the offensive line and he's 10 yards into the backfield. Real quickly, speaking of backfields, we knew that Dameon Pierce was emerging as the starter for the Houston Texans as a rookie. We didn't expect that they would say see you later to veteran Marlon Mack, but they did. And my son and I were talking about this yesterday because he was surprised because, a running back gets name recognition. People think he's good. He's desirable, like a Philip Lindsay who was cut yesterday by the Colts. Here's the problem. It's a numbers game. And the older you are,
yes,
and you don't have to be around very long to be too old for this in the NFL, they're not going to carry a third running back who's not playing special teams.
Definitely not.
They're just not. They'll get a guy fresh out of school with a minimum contract that is much lower than the Marlon Mack, Philip Lindsay minimum, and that guy will be on every special team.
Yeah.
And if you need him, he'll take a rep or two on offense. But Marlon Mack's not going to do that. Philip Lindsay's not going to do that. Veteran running backs are not going to play special teams.
No, they're not. You're exactly right. There's value in that. He's a guy that's been, injured the last few years, right? He didn't show like great explosive ability. And I'm trying to look here just to look at it as far as what exact year is, because you're right as far as when you get to year 6 or 8 in the NFL, if you're not just an absolute stud or on the top end of the roster, you're expendable. And they start to go, wait, we can save $600,000, $500,000 on the salary cap because this guy, is making the veteran minimum in year 6 or 8 or whatever, and we don't want to pay that. And we got other guys there, and they got guys, on their roster that are worthy to play. Again, Dameon Pierce, the man, Rex Burkhead, Royce Freeman, right? They're comfortable with that group, and they're going to play special teams, like you said. So it's a shame for Marlon Mack, a guy that was looking like he was going to be a chance to be a starting NFL running back. He got hurt in Indianapolis, and I don't know if it'll ever be the same. We'll see.
That is the thing about
it's 8 years. Is that what you said, Courtney?
Scale.
6. Okay, 6. Thank you. Sorry.
Rookie wage scale and the lower minimum salaries for the younger players, that's how it hurts veterans.
Yeah.
Because it allows teams to engage in a very dehumanizing, objective, dollars-driven assessment of who I'm going to keep. And it's close enough. I'm going to keep the younger guy. I'm going to keep the cheaper guy. I'm going to keep the guy who can do more things.
Right.
Why wouldn't I? And that higher veteran minimum salary ends up screwing a player out of a job. And now, again, there's an opportunity to be on the practice squad no matter your years of experience. We'll see what happens. But that's why running backs don't last very long in the NFL. I remember being stunned when I was a kid hearing that the average duration of a running back's career was like 3 or 4 years. Whether it's injury or whether it's just you're too expensive and there's too many younger guys who can do it, you're going to be gone.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.